Okay, so hello everyone again. My name is Isabella and I am the program coordinator at Delray Beach Public Library in Delray Beach, Florida. And I am coming to you live from my very own living room where I am working from home due to unforeseen health circumstances. But it's all good. We're here and everything is fine. So thank you for joining me today. This is, talking about periods is not the most popular subject on the planet. And so I applaud you for joining today. I really do. I appreciate you showing up. Once I get started with screen sharing, I won't be able to see any of you. So I would ask that if you have any questions or comments as we go along to just throw them into the chat box. And then as soon as I stop screen sharing at the end, I can address your questions and comments and we can have a little discussion if you want to hang out for a few minutes. Let's see. So this program that you're in right now is the second in a series that the library is offering celebrating National Period Day. Now, National Period Day, the actual day is on Saturday, October 10th. And I would have to say that I don't believe that there are any other public libraries in the United States offering a program like this. So I would like to say that Delray Beach Public Library is a small single branch library. We're mighty and we're like super progressive because we're actually talking about periods and like who the heck does that, right? So we have two more programs coming up that I would like to bring to your attention before we actually launch into my experiences in Kenya. So tomorrow at 4:00, we will have the award-winning author of this book. Her name is Ada Salazar. She is the author of this book, The Moon Within. And the story is it's a fictional story about a young Latina girl who is about to start her period and her mom wants to give her a moon ceremony. And apparently a moon ceremony is based on an ancient Mayan tradition that they used to do this special ceremony for girls who were coming of age. And so the book is about that. But the real life author gave a real life moon ceremony to her own daughter to celebrate her first period. And part of the presentation will include videos and photos from her daughter's moon ceremony. And the author is giving away 2 first moon kits, which is it's a starter period pack for young menstruators. It will include a copy of the book, plus some reusable cotton pads and some other menstrual goodies like some herbal teas and some other things. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited about that. So if you can join us, you should know that there's not a lot of period literature out there in the fictional world for young women. How many of you read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret? You may remember that book, right? Well, since that book was written more than 40 years ago, there really hasn't been any other books on the market until this one. And then on Saturday, our last program on the big day, we will be featuring the author of this book. Is It the Same for You? Her name is Neha Singh, and she will be coming to us live on Zoom all the way from Mumbai, India. So it was a real trick trying to schedule a mutual time because Mumbai is 9.5 hours ahead of us in Florida here. So it's either the middle of the night or whatever. So anyway, we're meeting at 11 a.m. on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. And she's going to read from her book, and she will also be talking about her work in activism. She has started an organization and a group called Why Loiter to raise awareness about harassment that women in India suffer frequently just walking down the street. And so she is trying to empower women to go out into public and to be safe and to tell the harassers to just kind of like back off. So it's going to be an interesting talk, and I hope that you will join us on Saturday at 11 a.m., bright and early. So thank you so much. Those are the programs we have coming up. And without further ado, I am going to go into screen share mode and talk about my experience in Kendu Bay, Kenya with to end period poverty. Okay, here we go. Let's try screen sharing here. Wish me luck. I forgot to do something. Can you all see that? I can't see you. So if you can unmute for a hot second and tell me yes. Can you see this screen?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, very good. That means we're good to go. All right. So what this program is going to be is a slide share and a talk about my experiences in Kendu Bay. Whoops, just a second. Sorry about that. Let's go back. In late February and early March of this past year. So I was actually there to set up some libraries through my own personal initiative called the Kenya Library Project. But it's like, since I was going all that way, I figured there must be something else that I can do while I'm there, because that's kind of like how librarians think. You know, we don't want to do just one thing. We're purveyors of information, and we want to provide information and resources and services to people, no matter where we are. And so that's kind of when I got on the idea of maybe doing something related to period poverty. So the question is, where in the world is Kendu Bay? So Kendu Bay is in Western Kenya. Actually, it's in Kenya is west. It's east. Anyway, it's on it's on the shores of Lake Victoria, and regardless of what Google says, it takes not less than 9 hours by car overland to drive to Kendu Bay from Nairobi. And the nearest airport to Kendu Bay is probably about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, depending on the roads and traffic at the time. So really the best way to get there is by car. So as I told you, I was there to set up a library, but then I decided to add the menstruation piece to the mix because the topic of menstruation is near and dear to my heart. And let's see. So let me share a little bit of background about myself. So I'm the only child of a very loving but conservative, I come from a loving but conservative religious family, right? So we did not talk about anything biological in our family. That just wasn't done. And I started my period when I was 11 years old. So I was still just a little kid. I was still playing with dolls at that point, right? And so when I started, my mom, she came into my bedroom and handed me this little booklet to read and gave me a package of sanitary pads and like hightailed it out of that bedroom, you know, faster than a speeding bullet. I mean, she was kind of like, she turned her back and she's like, if you have any questions, come and find me, and walked out and closed the door because we just didn't talk about it. There was like some secrecy and some stigma around it. And I don't think that has changed very much here in the 21st century. No matter what country of the world you live in, I think this is pretty much the norm. So my dad was a minister, as I said, and when I was a kid, we traveled around from parish to parish every couple weeks. So my dad would be the guest speaker at special church events. So this one day, I basically grew up as a perpetual house guest. So this one day we get to this new place, never been there before. We go in and my parents are doing the meet and greet with the pastor of the parish. And I'm the kid. I'm about 11, 12, 13, and I have to use the bathroom. So the bathroom, it's like a half bath just down the hall from the living room. I go in there and lo and behold, I have started my period. And I am mortified because we're in this new place with these new people and my parents are talking and I don't know how to get their attention and I don't know what to do. So I'm sitting there in the restroom and I'm calling for my mom, hoping that she'll hear me. But of course, the adults are laughing and carrying on and getting acquainted and don't hear me. And so finally, as desperation, mom, right? So she finally comes down the hall and she whispers through the door, "What's wrong? What do you need? What's the matter?" And I'm like, "Mom, I need the little blue suitcase." And this is in the 70s, right? And we had a little blue suitcase that looked exactly like the one on your screen. And that was where my mom and I, the only girls in the family, kept our sanitary products. And it was always full and always in the trunk of the car. And so instead of telling my dad, when my mom or I started our periods, "Dad, we need, the pads," we would just say, "Dad, we need the little blue suitcase," and he would know what we were talking about. So to my great mortification, my father had to go to the car and get the little blue suitcase and bring it to me. Crazy, right? And I'm sure that for the menstruators in the audience, you probably are thinking back to the first time you started and have your own stories to tell. So I get this idea that I want to do something about period poverty when I'm in Kendu Bay. And I start looking around for an eco-friendly, sustainable, reusable product. And because I'm assuming that buying commercially made pads in Kenya is not necessarily an easy thing. So in my research, I discovered this organization called Days for Girls. Days for Girls is a nonprofit organization that's been around since 2008. And they're basically comprised of sewing chapters all around the United States. So these people sign up to sew Days for Girls kits by following specific guidelines and patterns that are actually have been, what do you call it? When you send something in, these patented patterns to create reusable feminine hygiene kits for distributions all around the world. So I personally can't sew my way out of a paper bag. I'm lucky if I can even sew on a button, but the Days for Girls organization offers a teaching certificate, an education certificate, because that's a component of their whole program is, yes, you can bring pads to girls in the world, but you also have to bring them an educational piece to talk about what their bodies do and why it happens. So I wanted this teaching certificate before I went to Africa. So I signed up for the conference to get the certificate. And I was hoping to find a local chapter there at this conference that I could buy kits from, because like I said, I can't sew. I don't really know anyone who can sew. And it was a big deal because I wanted to be able to provide kits to 50 girls and women. And the kits cost about $10 a piece. So this was, $500 that I was going to sink into this project. So I get to the conference and I'm standing in line for breakfast and we're all getting to know each other. And the woman in the middle of the screen, she comes up to me and we're both waiting for our pancakes. And she asked me who I am. I tell her my whole story. I'm going to Africa. I can't sew. I need 50 kits. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And when I turn to look at her to get her response, she's not there. She has completely disappeared. I look around the room. I don't see her. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know what I said, but I just go on. I sit down to have my breakfast. And next thing you know, there she is again, sitting next to me. And she says to me, she puts her hand on top of my arm and she says, "I have kits for you." I'm like, what? She's like, "I have all of your kits. I got 50 kits for you. You don't have to pay for anything. Just pay for the shipping. We got kits for you." And that was when I was introduced to the Kirksville, Missouri chapter of the Days for Girls organization. So they agreed to provide me with 50 feminine hygiene kits to take to Kendu Bay, Kenya. It was a miracle. So on the left, on that couch, you see all 50 bags, all 50 kits piled up on the sofa. And then you might be asking, what is in those bags anyway? So on the right, you can see what's inside a Days for Girls kit. So basically, you get 2 pair of underwear, a washcloth, that little piece of paper is a chart that on the one side has a chart to track your menstrual cycle. And on the other side, it has an explanation about how to care for the items in the bag, right? So you basically get, so I told you the underwear, the washcloth, a bar of soap, a plastic bag to put your soiled items in. And so you have like this winged thing with snaps on it, and you have these pads that you fold up, you tri-fold them and stick them inside and wear them in your underwear. And when they are soiled, you can change them, you can wash them, you can hang them on the line to dry in the sun. And you can see that the colors, the patterns are colorful and a little bit darker, but still cheery, so that when they get soiled and washed and hung on the line, it's not super obvious what they were used for. They could just, from a passersby, might look at the line, excuse me, and think it's just rags or who knows what, but they won't associate it with, with a menstrual product, because it's embarrassing. Girls don't want to hang their bloodied items, their bloody stained items on the line for the whole world to see. And so Days for Girls is really careful about that. I will say, though, you can see that there's a Ziploc bag in the photo. Actually, in Kenya, plastic bags of all kinds have been banned. So since that banning happened, Days for Girls changed the Ziploc bag to a waterproof lined bag that can be used for the same purpose. So there was a team of us, a group of 5 of us that were traveling to Kenya to do the library program. There were 2 retired teachers, 2 librarians, and 1 nurse. And I had so much stuff that I had to bring with me related to the period program that it wasn't all going to fit in my luggage. And I didn't want to pay the extra overweight charges or the extra baggage fees. So I asked my friends from Delray Beach that were going, I'm like, please, can I give you stuff to put in your suitcase? And they were like, sure, no problem. So they all brought extra luggage for me. And, when you get to the airport and you hear those announcements, has anyone, given you anything in your luggage, that you don't know about? It was like, I told them, I'm like, if you get asked that question, just say no, because you trust me, right? So the educational piece is important to Days for Girls because we're trying to break down, the barriers. We're trying to handle the ideas of fear, and we're trying to break down stigma and break through superstitions. And the truth is, even though I have the teaching certificate, I thought it would be better coming from the locals because of dialect and, just different words for things. The words in America for certain aspects of your body functions could be entirely different from words that are used in Kenya. So I enlisted the help of Margaret. Margaret is the woman on the left. She is a local girls program leader. And we have Rachel in the center, who is a nursing assistant. And on the right, we have the lead teacher, Jacob, who is a registered nurse. And all 3 of them live and work in Kenya. So the program that day was presented in 3 languages: English, Swahili, and the local dialect of Luo. And I was so glad that I had them do the teaching instead of me, because when Jacob was talking about the wash bag because there's no plastic bags anymore. There's like this lined wash bag that's waterproof. When he was talking about this to these young women about where to put their soiled items, he said, he called it a Macintosh. He said, you take the Macintosh and you put your soiled items in. And I'm thinking, Macintosh, like the rain slicker? That, to me, that's like a raincoat, right? But then I realized that he was talking about, the waterproof bag, and that's what they called waterproof things, Macintosh. So the truth is that it's only blood. And if you think about it, there are millions of people in the world menstruating on any given day. Yet there's all of this stigma and superstition around it, and it's like it's a big secret. It's not really a secret because we all know it's happening, but no one wants to talk about it. So here are some of the more popular superstitions about menstruation from around the world. I'll give you a moment to read through those. And I will say, when I had a Zoom call with Neha, the presenter who's zooming in from Mumbai on Saturday, she said that in the area of India where she comes from, that there's a superstition that if you're on your period and you go near pickles, that you will make the pickles go bad. And I'm like, but pickles are already in vinegar, but there you have it. So the whole idea is to break down these superstitions, because the truth is that these superstitions lead to end up placing limits on women and girls every month in some form or fashion. And you know that with knowledge comes power. Knowledge about something can calm down your fears. Knowledge about something can, help with stigma and superstitions. And knowledge will help you understand the situation in Kenya. So 50% of Kenyan girls say that they can openly discuss menstruation at home. And I'm actually surprised at that number, because I would think it would be less, because no one really wants to talk about it. Only 12% of girls in Kenya would be comfortable receiving menstrual information from their moms. 1 in 4 girls do not associate menstruation with pregnancy. And there is the common belief that menstruating women and girls are unclean or polluted in some way. And because I'm a librarian, here's a few more facts to throw at you. Only 32% of rural schools in Kenya have a private place for girls to change their menstrual product. 65% of girls cannot afford any brand of sanitary pads on a monthly basis. 2 out of 3 commercial pad users and 10% of 15-year-old girls engage in transactional sex or seek out boyfriends to obtain sanitary pads. So when I was in Kenya and I was visiting, some schools to set up the libraries, and I had to use the bathroom, there would be a latrine with a pit toilet way out on the far edge of the field. And I'd traipse out there, and I'd have my friends with me because there's no doors and there's no running water, and there's no flush toilets. You just have to do your business. And I would have a friend like Sharon there, who's online with us today, act as the door. We had hand sanitizers in our pockets and toilet paper. But I'm in experiencing that situation. I was thinking about the young girls who were menstruating in that school, and it's like there's no privacy. There's no place to wash your hands. There's no place to dispose of your if you have a pad on a commercial pad, there's no place to throw it away. It's just not possible. And the truth is, in the rural areas, a package of commercially made pads can cost a day's wage. And in Kendu Bay, it's a very rural area, and the people there, their subsistence farmers, subsistence fishermen. They just live from day to day, and whatever money they can make that day is what they use to buy food for their families that night. So it's cost prohibitive for people in the rural areas to be able to buy a package of pads. So therefore, that leaves women with not a whole lot of other options. And they're resorting to things like wads of extra fabric or dried leaves or stuffing from mattresses, or sometimes even dirt and cooled ash is used. It's not sanitary. It's not hygienic. It causes all sorts of problems in terms of infections. So we're trying to do something about that. And the young girls who engage in transactional sex, it's like the problem with that is that it leads to teen pregnancy. It can result in STIs, HIV, and AIDS. And additionally, the lack of access to feminine hygiene products keeps girls out of school for days at a time. And eventually it leads to girls just not wanting to deal with it anymore, and they just drop out. On the day of our presentation, Jacob, the registered nurse, he was a great teacher. It was like no holds barred. He was not nervous or embarrassed or anything. He was funny and he was engaging and he was matter of fact, and he demonstrated step by step for those young ladies how to use all of the components in the hygiene kit, including putting on the underwear, girls' underwear, and they just thought that was hilarious. And it was important for the girls to know that menstruation is normal and that your life doesn't have to stop just because you're on your period. You can go to school, you can do chores, you can take care of your brothers and sisters, you can play with your friends. And I'll see if this video will play. This was Jacob demonstrating that you can actually play soccer while wearing one of those Days for Girls pads in your underwear.
I'm good to go.
It was great. Because hygiene is so important, from washing your hands to keeping your privates clean, bucket baths in rural Kenya are very common. Not a lot of households have running water, and because the lake is handy, usually the water is just drawn from the lake and you're sponge bathing. So Jacob demonstrated for the girls basically how to clean your girl bits, how to keep yourself clean when you have just a bucket of water to do so. And after all that training, it was time for the distribution. It was time to pass out those delightful kits to all of those young ladies. And on the right-hand side, you can see where, they're like looking in their bags. What color panties did I get? What does the soap smell like? What I appreciate about the Days for Girls kits is that they are attractive and they're discreet. The girls can carry them with them to school. They just threw them on their backs, as you can see in the photos. They can wear them on their backs. They can go to school. They can go to the market, wherever they have to go in their daily lives. They will always have what they need with them when they need it. Menstruation is one of the most prevalent barriers to a girl's education. Yet keeping girls in school is important, not only on the individual level, but on a national level as well. Studies show that if girls receive 7 full years of education, they will marry an average of 4 years later and have 2.2 fewer children. If they attend just 1 additional year of secondary school, their lifetime wages can increase by up to 25%, which can in turn raised their country's GDP by billions of dollars. Not only that, educating girls about their bodies and menstruation, breaking the social taboos and superstitions, allows these girls to become social change agents. These girls at our distribution, they went home from the event armed with factual knowledge about their bodies, about periods, and with all this equipment in the bags to share. And they would share the information that they learned with their moms, with their aunts, with their friends, with their little sisters. And when they grow up and have daughters of their own, they are equipped to educate them. And this has the potential to change generations and finally break through the stigma of menstruation. I'd like to think that I helped these young women become catalysts for change. It was such a privilege to meet all of them and to provide the Days for Girls kits, and it was such an amazing experience. And it wouldn't have happened without the help of all and the generosity of all the parties who came together so willingly. It basically took the kindness of strangers with the Days for Girls Kirksville, Missouri chapter. That was like taking the kindness of strangers to a whole new level. And I'm so grateful to everyone who was on my team and to the Days for Girls chapter in Kirksville, Missouri for supplying the kits to us. A few weeks after I returned from Kendu Bay, Margaret, the girls' leader, sent me a video on WhatsApp of this young lady named Vivian. She was one of the girls who received a kit that day. Now, I wasn't able to actually play the video here because I couldn't get it to embed into my PowerPoint presentation for some reason. But basically, here is a transcript of what she said in her video to me. She said, "My name is Vivian T. I received the reusable pads, and now I'm using them in school, showing them to my friends and teachers. My teachers love them, and my friends who are also hoping to have some. I'm not missing school, and my parents don't have to buy the non-reusable pads. And now I'm very happy when I'm using them on my periods. Thank you." That video left me in tears. It was so awesome. So that concludes my program. Let me turn on my camera. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, it's time for me to sign off, but I thank you all for your time and for being here. And please go to our library website, delraylibrary.org, and sign up for the rest of the programs we have this week. Thank you so much for being here.